only was head, Batman. Tiki here, and I've been watching through Batman the Animated Series for the first time. And alas, we come upon the penultimate episode before the great redesign. And oh my god, could it be? Is this a straight up homage to Walt Disney, or am I just putting the pieces together where they shouldn't be? Dragon, you need to help me out here. Tell them why.
Well, you see, folks, long ago I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham, in a way.
Yes, that's right. And tonight we are talking about Dragon. Tell them what the episode we're talking about. I'm sorry.
Deep Freeze.
Deep Freeze. Thank you. Tonight we're talking. It's like Dragon. This is me. It's like I do the rest of the intro good, and then it's like, fuck, I don't have the title written down. I knew it was a Mr. Freeze episode of some kind. I knew it was simple. I just didn't want to wing it. So I'm sorry about that, Dragon. But guess what, Dragon? I have some hot takes on this episode, and some positive hot takes.
For a change.
Yeah, exactly. For a change, yes. Hot take numero uno. I want to differentiate. This is not the best episode of this season, but Dragon, it is my favorite. It is my favorite. It is definitely my personal favorite. I just, by all intents and purposes, with all the Walt Disney parallels and just the ending that to me just strikes really hard on a lot of levels. This one really sings for me, man. It really is just kind of like, it speaks to pretty much all my sensibilities. Hot take number 2. I like this better than the original Mr. Freeze.
Well, you mean Heart of Ice.
Heart of Ice, right, yeah, Heart of Ice. So, I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did, but, yeah, Dragon, this to me is just an amazing Mr. Freeze episode, just because, first of all, the thing I think this episode does fantastically well is not for a second is Victor Freeze the bad guy in this story. And yet, it's a story centered around him, and man, there's so many cool elements to this thing, Dragon. I want you to tell me if I'm totally off base with the Walt Disney thing, or if I'm totally on base with it in your background, because that's the thing I'm most curious about. But yeah, regardless, Dragon, I basically took the whole premise of this episode. If basically, what if the Walt Disney cryogenic frozen thing went right? And B, what if Epcot went horribly, horribly wrong? So, Dragon, God, I'm fascinated by this one, man. There's so many things that really, really sing for me. There's so many things that really speak to my sensibilities. How'd this episode come about?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to like this one. Okay. So a little context here. So this is directed by the great Kevin Altieri, responsible from this season episodes like Harley's Holiday and Demon's Quest, of course. Love the Ra's al Ghul episodes. Those are probably my favorite from season 3 if I had to pick what either the best or the favorite is. But Deep Freeze is not far behind it. I'll put it to you that way. Writing team. This is big. This is a reason everything kind of came together really. I mean, one, you have Altieri, of course. Demon's Quest. You can't get any better. But writing, you got both Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. You got both. You got the Sunshine Boys on this one, man. You got them both. You got Dini and Tim, of course, created as a Harley Quinn, but big thing. They worked together on the Heart of Ice episode, where Paul Dini wrote it, Bruce Timm directed, which he rarely does on the animated series. Usually, it's a big occasion when Bruce Timm is in the directing chair. In this case, not the directing chair, but this season, the two of them actually wrote the trial episode together. So this is the second time they've been kind of paired up as writers. And again, the results show. Of course, Dini also having worked on Harley's Holidays, kind of tie in the whole ulterior of it all. Studio worked on this, Dong Yang, and again, one of Dong Yang's finest.
Oh man, you just saying that name just makes me just bittersweet, Dragon. Honestly, we've gone through a journey with Dong Yang.
I want to say the next one's a Dong Yang. Don't quote me yet. I'm pretty sure the next one looks really good too, because it feels like a Dong Yang one. But anyway, so. Dong Yang, of course, having done just the kind of bask in it for a moment, they had done Trial, They done Harley's Holiday. They done Riddler's Reform and Bane.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's the thing on Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze is truly, I think, one of the. I mean, it's up there with kind of Riddler's Reform and Second Chance in terms like these. This is like one of the. I'm talking like if Second Chance is a forgotten gem, this is like one of the forgotten gems. Deep Freeze is one of the truly forgotten episodes, and you got to remember the biggest claim to fame this episode has. Everyone always forgets because it's the misnomer. They always think, hey, it's Heart of Ice that did this first. Putting Nora Freeze on ice. Because remember, Heart of Ice is that Nora Freeze died. Okay, that's the tragedy of Heart of Ice. Like she wasn't. We didn't have the fame. We had the visual. We had like the little the ballerina in the little snow globe.
Sure,
We had
sure,
that.
sure.
And of course, they had the genius idea: if we ever do another Mr. Freeze episode, let's put Nora in the little ballerina snow globe. So that's the huge claim to fame.
So the Batman and Robin thing basically came from this more than that.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, Tiki.
Okay,
Like Schumacher, when he was looking at episodes of the animated series, this was towards the end of the run, which is really close to production of Batman and Robin. So I'm just saying this was huge. So you'll notice there's not a lot of Mr. Freeze in the animated series because there was a lot of fear of how the heck do you top Heart of Ice. I mean, Riddler was like, we don't want to bother with the riddles because they're really hard to write, so we're going to bring them back very, very sparingly unless we have a gimmick or something really good up our sleeves. But Mr. Freeze, like, we don't want to screw the pooch on this. So Mr. Freeze was always like, we had a really good story for it, so if we're going to bring him back, we're going to bring him back right. So we got to get all hands on deck. We got to get Altier. We got to get Tim. We got to get Dean. We got to get the A crew on this. So, in regards to the Grant Walker of it all, so Paul Dini, he's always had an affinity for Disney.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this, and on that Floyd Norman documentary, Paul Dini's in that. He asked Norman to do an illustration of Shere Khan for him. You know, he's a big fan.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, yeah.
So Dini, he's had an interest in the Disney of it all. He's kind of like there are some nods in the animated series we've covered before, like some Disney nods here and there. Some lighter ones. So this is the most direct it's ever been. So obviously there's very much a Walt Disney parallel it's very intentional, the Walt Disney parallel with Grant Walker. But actually, here's a deeper cut. I can't substantiate this, but from what I hear, the name Grant Walker is a deeper Disney cut.
Card Walker?
Yes, Card and Walker, yeah.
Oh boy. Oh god
so
damn.
For the kids who may not be aware, so Card and Walker was, if I'm right, he was the head cheese, the CEO, and maybe a few other titles.
I believe he was the second post Walt CEO after Walt's son-in-law Ron Miller.
Right. Wait, was he before or after Ron Miller?
He was after Ron Miller. Ron Miller was definitely Walt's successor.
Okay, right. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that's exactly. He was after Ron Miller. So that's kind of how early we're talking here. If I remember, I don't think he was a good CEO either, but I can't substantiate.
No, he was not, Dragon.
If I'm remembering right, I want to say between Miller we were starting to drift into kind of the Aristocats of it all, and then Card and Walker was kind of continuing that kind of the manufacture, like the guys in suits in a room versus the kind of the wake and sleep beauty of it all.
Sure.
All right, so again, a lot of eyes on Mr. Freeze with this episode, and of course, definitely there's like kind of a snowball effect that goes on here. We get, I want to say this tees up again getting on Schumacher's radar, which essentially gets us the thing we'll be talking about after the finale of this season, because we're not going to just jump into the revamp. We got one thing to talk about after the next episode. It's Sub-Zero, the movie. Yeah, so that's the big basically that's the dot to this story. It kind of leads into that story, which I completely forgot about in the rewatch. Like, oh my god, it's a perfect lead-in to the movie. So yeah, all right.
All right. So you want to just jump right into the recap then?
Let's just jump right into it. A lot of fun. Okay.
All right. Start us off.
We got a cool-looking Flesher Superman-esque robot coming out of the water of Arkham. And a robot just kind of walks through Arkham Asylum's defenses and the guards, takes a lot of fire, not deterred at all, pretty much bulletproof. Takes out a few armed guards with its own arms. Well, there you go. Important cool detail. Not only is this like a flesher-looking robot, it's a flesher-looking robot with a cold beam.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a memorable. These kind of freezing things. I don't see that every day in these awesome flesher-looking robots. So we have really great editing in this episode. I don't know if you noticed this. We have like a grenade is thrown by one of the guards, and we cut from the grenade going off to the ruckus from the inside of Victor Frieza's cell.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that really struck me like right off the bat with this episode, Dragon, is that Victor Frieza is very much like I don't want to call him the victim, but he's kind of like a victim of circumstance in this episode. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
He is very much not the antagonist, and this first shot of just showing him in fear is just it kind of tells you everything to know about his role.
You got to remember, Victor Fries is like after Heart of Ice. That was his like he's not really a reprisal villain. That was his big revenge plot, and he was just he's laying there and waiting in his cold cell in Arkham. He's not complaining because he has nothing to live for until this episode, essentially. So he's very just sad and complacent in Arkham. Again, the Batman's compassion is kind of like it's kind of the last note we left with Mr. Freeze. And I love how we bring back the Heart of Ice theme, which is perfect. Important symbol to be recontextualized later with the snow globe, which of course is going to become very important later with the Nora of it all. So he's hearing all this ruckus and the snow's being moved around by the explosions outside. He's kind of looking out his window. Interesting. You don't see that every day. So a robot's climbing up, and this is always, oh man, this episode looks so fantastic. Just as it climbs up, like you see the light outside the window as Victor Freeze getting, oh my god, this robot's getting awfully close. And Victor Freeze runs to the end of his cell as he's hitting a little intercom. Because the idea is he's a behaved patient, so he has like an intercom. It's just guard. So it just breaks
this is just some horrifying imagery right here, Dragon. Not only do we symbolically kill Mr. Freeze with the with the ballerina just shattering, and anyone who knows anything about Mr. Freeze knows that's a big deal. But we also just see him being shoved into the stomach of this robot.
So one, I love the design of this robot. I love the idea you would break out a person, put him in the chamber.
So it kind of reminds me of like a Fritz Lang sci-fi movie. You know what I mean? Like a Metropolis kind of design.
I got. So also again, Michael Ansara voicing Mr. Freeze, and he adds a lot more emotion to it. 'Cause you gotta remember, last time his whole direction was like, I want you to play it as emotionless as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And we get to get some layers. Again, the emotion breaking through the facade of like, I'm dead to all emotion. Where again, he's feeling genuine fear right now, which again adds a level to it, as you said. So again, with the editing too. So we don't just see that happen, Tiki. Like he's like guard, and we just cut to the aftermath of security camera footage in the Batcave. He was taken, man. Again, really, really great editing.
Mm-hmm.
So Robbins thinks he wants to give Freeze credit. Oh my God, most original breakout ever this year. I mean, look at that. And Batman being the smart guy in the room because he earned that World's Greatest Detective mug for a reason. Batman observes that I don't think he was behind it. For a man who look at the fear on the face of a man who claims to be dead to all emotions like that Freeze wasn't behind this. So it's probably whoever did this had an expertise in robotics, which means they got to pay a visit to their old hard act pal.
Another one of my favorite underrated episodes, Dragon.
Yeah, you mean Silicon Soul, right?
Yes, yeah.
I know, me, it's nostalgic, one of my favorites.
Uh-huh.
So, Batman and Robin go to Carl Rossum's new place, and they're greeted, not initially by Carl Rossum, they're greeted by Batmite.
Oh God, Drake! When I first saw this, the one thing I thought of was like, oh, is this a forecoming of things to come, like the show getting a little bit more cartoony?
It's yes and no. It's more like this is before they knew they had a DC universe. This is like Batman. Okay, so Paul Dini loves Batmite and Mxyzptlk, which is why when they do Superman the animated series, there is a Mxyzptlk episode about the actual.
Yeah.
And so Dini loves this sort of stuff, but again, this is before they're getting to a Superman. They can actually do that sort of stuff. So they're thinking like, what if? So basically, it's like, what's the grounded version of Batmite? If like this, for all we know, this could be the end of our run, which for all intents and purposes kind of was. So yeah, I'll get Batmite in there for the greetings dynamic duo. It's a little flying bat thing, all cutesy. Like, greetings dynamic duo. I'm your biggest fan. Plants one on Robin, very cartoony. And then it kind of breaks down a lot of cartoony saying boing, 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 boing. So Bill Sanderson, of course, voicing Carl Rossum, also for the folks out there, J.F. Sebastian from Blade Runner, hence the robot thing. Rossum means robot in Russian, technically, so all that sort of stuff. And Pat Fraley, voice of Buzz Lightyear, whenever Tim Allen doesn't want to do it, is doing Batmite here.
Rossum is very much a character that also stuck out to me in his original run, Dragon. If you remember, he so I was happy to see him back. I really liked kind of I really liked his soft spokenness. You know what I mean? There's something about the way that his actor delivers his lines where it's like, oh man, like, this guy's very soft spoken, but there's a lot of layers of emotion kind of like underneath the surface.
I absolutely, and I love the arc that he's gone on with Batman through his episodes. The last time we're going to see him, but it's I just love the idea that he and Batman, they've gone on like the initial like Heart of Steel two-parter thing, where like again Rawson was a guy who lost his daughter and tried to replace her with a robot, but he realized it's a horrible idea. But little did he know, robot was going to take over. And of course, Silicon Soul, need I say more? Just that's we add all the personal layers of a man trying to rebuild the life which Batman gets, and now we're seeing the life rebuilt. So again, wonderful little connecting dots there we built with this character. So we establish that Rossum says obviously Rossum looks a little bit like a suspect here, but I love that Batman's he's not interrogating him, he's not threatening him, he's not all he believes Rossum. He's just thinking, okay, something happened here, let me find out what happened. So I'm out of the robot business. All I build now are toys to keep me company. And also with these toys, they have like little mixy spit, like little Crypto the Super Dog and Street Kid.
Yeah. There's a couple good cameos there.
All right, so then we get some plot here. We learn that they show him a picture of the robot. It's the old M9. Basically, he created a smaller prototype of the giant freeze robot thing for Mr. Grant Walker.
All right. So meanwhile, in Epcot.
Pretty much, and also I just think
no, not pretty much, Strike. We just need to pause and acknowledge the design of this thing, Dragon. You got the giant tower in the center. You got the dome. I mean, it's Epcot, Dragon. I love it. I'm not complaining at all. This is one of the reasons why this is my favorite episode of the season.
No. I'm saying you're right about all. I'm just saying like I was going to add to your fire there with the whole like Rossum was one of his Visioneers.
Welcome, Visioneers, right.
This is an old Visioneers thing, and like basically we learned he was like one of the kind of the quote unquote Imagineers. He built the auto, and basically Rossum's behind.
But I love the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying Rossum's behind the auto animatronics. So basically, we're building like the Disney lore through this Grant Walker.
Yes. Oh my God.
So it's a lot of fun. Then we go to Oceania, which essentially is the prototype version. It's called Oceania, the prototype vision of the future, which obviously. Very Epcot inspired. Again, Tiki, that's our go-to with Disney. It's at least for me. I'm pretty sure it's for you too. It's one of the go-tos with Walt Disney. It's always been like last footage that he had at like Epcot. It's always been the go-to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dragon. The my go-to with Walt Disney biopics and such is definitely that. Like just the idea of Walt Disney's life in a narrative point of view. The whole like. Just every step of the way he was innovating, and Epcot was like the last great innovation he had, and it's truly fascinating. I will spend the rest of my life being fascinated by the arc of that man. But
now Dini's been kind of inching towards the Epcot thing with the Mask of the Phantasm because he's explored kind of the like the theme park setting in.
Yeah. He's had a couple of World Fairs in there too, if I remember.
Yeah, the World's Fair is built in there, but I mean, literally like doing kind of like an Epcot-y sort of like vision of the future within Gotham, which obviously would be quite dour, like we did in Phantasm. But here we're doing, what if a guy fought against that and tried to come up with a solution? Like, what if Disney tried to come up with a solution for the world's problems via Epcot?
All right, so we need to talk about the design of Walker himself, which basically looks like Walt Disney in his 70s.
Essentially, yes.
It's creepy as shit, honestly.
Like, what if Disney kind of hung on there like a little, maybe like another decade?
Another
perhaps.
decade. Which Dragon, that was one of those things, like, that was a talking point for the Walt Disney Family Museum crew that, when I was working there was, everyone involved in that museum, because we were all volunteers, we all definitely had a big reverence for the man and a big talking point, for just Walt fans and people who are specifically fans of that era of the Disney history. What if he had another 10 years? What could he do with another 10 years?
Yeah, that's great.
And so the fact that this episode just completely turns it on its head, just chef's kiss. I love it.
So you're probably wondering, how the heck can it get any better than this? With not just this really clever take on like a Disney of it all. Like, okay, well, not only do we have like a 10 years later version of Walt, the voice we got for him, we got Dan O'Hurley. Now, Dan O'Hurley, I know you're probably not. It doesn't spring to mind to you, but this guy very iconic for playing the old man.
John O'Hurley, is he related to John O'Hurley?
No, it's spelled differently, different Hurley.
Okay.
Honestly, I've always heard it pronounced Hurley. It might be like Hurley. Anyway, so
right.
Dan O'Hurley, playing Grant Walker, he was the old man from RoboCop, as in like the old man who ran the company. He's called him the old man.
Okay.
That was like his. So he's playing the splicing of the guy who runs like most corrupt version of Disney ever with OCP and RoboCop with kind of your Disney figure. So again, it's like the perfect blend of those two. So it's and again they're always built in RoboCop the gag in the first movie. They always kind of touched on here and there was that they're trying to build the crime-free version of Detroit, which is like Delta City, the building the world of tomorrow. So all this is perfect, is what I'm getting at. And again, great voice actor too. He's always had like a really strong voice, so it's the perfect blend on all fronts there. And point so he's so Mr. Freeze is delivered to Grant Walker, who again is our deluded what if of Walt Disney. And he's taken an interest in the chilly history of Victor Freeze, as Freeze is going to factor into his plans big time. And again, he's kind of inspired him with the whole Freeze cannon thing later, which we'll get to. So this Freeze has made a big impact on Grant Walker here. So as Victor Freeze is made comfortable...
Again, Dragon, I'm sorry, I hate to do this, but, like, again, I have to just pause and just geek out about, like, oh my god, he's obsessed with cryogenics!
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
More on that later. So Victor Freeze, he tells the robot to make Victor Freeze comfortable for their little their little ice side chat later.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I love... this is a really cool deal. I love his cane. I forgot that his cane has like the hidden panel and everything in it. Where you can flip it up and you can see the little readout and like and everything. It's awesome. So basically, we learn from his number 2 guy that there's an unauthorized craft in the vicinity. Dispatch the usual deterrence, Mr. Johnson. So then we have the Bat Boat. Bat Boat, yeah. Sorry. So we have the Bat Boat, which is cool. Robin doesn't get... Again, Robin's still basically saying, I don't get why. Why would a theme park mogul kidnap Mr. Freeze? And then we have a great, honestly, a nice added layer on the rewatch here with Batman, where he has like a lot of great pointed lines of Walker. Now we've been through this whole season together. It kind of adds like, again, we've been building this track with the Bruce Wayne side of things this season.
Yeah.
Where Batman's saying, men like Walker are obsessed with getting their own way, and they don't let little things like the law stop them. So, bit of a parallel to Bruce Wayne. One, of course, the guys of Bruce Wayne's always like in the public eye, kind of like Walker per se. But also technically, if you really think about it, Batman is doing what Grant Walker's doing. He doesn't let the law stop him from doing what he wants to. He's very obsessed in his own way and how he cleans up Gotham. And think about it, Grant Walker is doing his own version of getting rid of the crime problem, which is just more sociopathic. But we'll get there.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so then we have these 3 shark missiles in the middle of the action here. We have 3 shark missiles. I love they detailed the missiles. They're not just missiles, they're like shark missiles.
God.
Again, a grounded version of 60s Batman. They're dealing with sharks.
Also, I could totally see Walt Disney adding that detail. Like, no, we don't want missiles. We want a special kind of missile.
Exactly. So, points the Batboat's trying to evade these missiles, gets a little damaged, then the power shorts out.
Also, just to point out, rare action from the Batboat, Dragon. Nice to see it in action.
Yeah, you betcha. So it gets damaged, it shorts out, and then basically cut away. Again, we keep cutting away. Really good editing. Big explosion. So the threat seems to be neutralized. Grant was excellent. He's having a banner day. This Grant Walker. It's a good day for Grant. Okay, so Batman and Robin, we reveal, thank goodness, they're okay, and they're wearing the underwater scuba mask, and they're swimming to the gate using the acetylene torch. They're crashing the gate, man, on opening day. It's what they do. They like to be there at rope drop, so one could say. All right, so Walker, here we go. Okay, so now we're entering my favorite section of the episode here. Oh boy, oh boy. So Walker is recreating Mr. Freeze's suit. Disney does it right, though. They even are diluted version of Disney here. We got all the tricks. He builds Mr. Freeze's suit with the temperature control, with the enhanced strength, and of course the cold gun, which Mr. Freeze, again, very cold logic of Mr. Freeze, as he tends to do. He freezes the M9 muscle in the room, which is the only thing that could stop him right now, and then he airs the cold logic. Logically, I should do the same to you, which, yeah, why don't I just freeze you and go home? You gave me my suit, I'm out now. Then Walker makes his pitch. He points out that Mr. Freeze is near immortal, because, again, the cold factor means he doesn't age, which is something they toy with later in the DCAU. Mr. Freeze doesn't age. So Victor Freeze's condition allows for this, and of course, Freeze is getting all, I love it when Ansara gets poetic. This eternal life trapped in this wretched cell. What a miserable joke. And of course, Graham Walker said, oh my gosh, it's a godsend to me. Again, this is where we get into the Walt Disney what if, Tiki. This is the
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What if Disney was so desperate to survive his legacy by any means possible? Like what if we took, like, instead, why the whole decapitation thing? Let's put him actually in the full suit. Let's save the whole body. Right. So he wants to become like Mr. Freeze. I want to be a being of blessed eternal cold. And Mr. Freeze instantly calls him out here, like, you're insane. And he lifts him by the scruff of his nice.
Yes,
suit.
eternal life, shattered from the outside world. What a miserable joke.
Yes, and you'll be like this, abandoned. You want to be like this, abandoned, alone, a prisoner in a world you can see but never touch. Old and infirm as you are, I'd trade 1,000 of my frozen years for your worst day. And then here's where we're getting to my favorite part. Here we go. So Walker had another swap in mind, and then we have the reveal. And this gives me chills every time I watch this scene. We have the reveal. It's a button.
Yeah, it kind of shocks me that people. I mean, I understand that people get this and Heart of Ice mixed up to some extent, but it kind of shocks me that this episode is just kind of swept under the rug, considering this is such a big landmark. Like, when we think of Mr. Freeze, we specifically think of this type of imagery.
And again, it's because you had right after this you have Sub-Zero. If they're thinking of Sub-Zero the movie, which is simple to come to mind, or Heart of Ice. Those are your two options. Never the one in the middle.
Sub-Zero in between this and in the next season.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sub-Zero is after our finale of this season.
Gotcha.
Then we get the revamps. That's like the last visage of the animated series style. Then we get the revamp.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's the thing. Because of that, this episode is completely forgotten. They're always going to, because again, she's kind of in the tube briefly in that movie. That's the thing, very briefly. It's like one scene. Anyway.
Right.
All right. Okay. So anyway, so the curtain opens and we reveal Nora in the snow globe-like chamber, like Sleeping Beauty. And I just love the music, and this is what always got me. Mr. Freeze's reaction, the man without emotion, just he melts. Is such a powerful, again, like this is the moment where Mr. Freeze, he's given hope and a reason to live. Because he doesn't care about life anymore. He's going waiting around in his cell in Arkham, but he now has like the whole famous thing with Mr. Freeze. He's fighting for a cure for his wife. This is where that mission's born. Nora. So Grant Walker says, I was an investor in GothCorp, and I took an interest in their cryogenics program. I take it you know the young lady behind the glass? My wife. And he says that his men saved her from the GothCorp fire, which essentially is the whole Mr. Freeze accident of it all. And I have the technology to restore her if Mr. Freeze duplicates the accident that gave him, the eternal cold thing. And Mr. Freeze, how the heck can he say no? He says, very well. So again, the
Mhm.
birth Mr. Freeze looking
But I
for.
do like that it's not just like he doesn't just jump all over it. He is you can see there is conflict there.
Yes, he doesn't want to do this, but they're not for him. It's like it's not an instant yes, but he knows there's no reason, no one reason in the world he would ever say no.
Mhm.
So again, really clever pitch for Grant Walker. My God, he's so shrewd here because he knows he has like I'm gonna give him a reason to live so I can have a reason to survive. Really clever. All right. Okay, so let's see. So now we have the residents of Oceania. This is the thing I want to talk to you about. The residents of Oceania who are gathered for an announcement. Now there's always been kind of a question here for me of like, are they park goers? Because the idea is this thing is
Yeah, this is weird, man. This is yeah, I hear ya. So first of all, like this Oceania, like it's already like kind of separated from the outside world, right? It's like all the way out, like in the middle of the ocean or something.
yes, but they have like these cruise liner things. So
Uh huh.
presumably I always thought here's my theory on it. My theory's always been that this is a theme park, but he's been preparing, he's like conditioning people to take it as like a literal, like, hey, this is the new world of tomorrow. We're gonna stay here. It's like we're gonna take the Epcot mission, for face value.
Right. Okay. So like maybe it's because essentially like Walt Disney, the real man, was very upfront about the idea that he did not want Epcot to be looked at as a theme park.
Yeah.
So maybe for this, it's the idea is like, what if Walt Disney slowly realized that people had to be kind of like conditioned to look at Epcot
Hmm.
as a theme park, and where he would kind of like dupe them into moving there on the basis of it being a thing. You get what I mean?
Tiki, that's
Like,
what I'm
what if his
saying.
tactics kind of changed as the 60s went on in terms
That,
of marketing the thing?
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's advertised as a park. That's how
I'm going
people
down
think
kind
of
of a
it.
rabbit hole here, but
No, but
this
that's
is kind
exactly.
of fascinating, like alternate history. I think of casually on a day to day, anyways.
Well, you see what I'm saying? I don't know if perhaps it like stars like it's kind of like the whole like the step of like you could actually stay in Walt's room in the Disney
Sure.
park sign where it's like
Oh,
the
oh
idea of like
God, right?
imagine if you could stay. Well, again, we're kind of at we're at that for kind of a point. You could stay inside or very really close to the Disney parks. Where in this case, it's like Oceania you go to, you can have fun in the park, but also stay overnight. And then he's like giving people uniforms and stuff. So the question is, are they park goers or like selected cast members who just haven't left yet? That's kind of the question. But you see what I'm saying, though. It's like, are they cult like followers, or I think the more interesting answer is they're park goers who've been conditioned, as you're saying.
uh
So the point being that we have residents of Oceania who are again kind of slowly but surely
Right.
taking this
I'm sorry. One more thing. You know about Celebration, right?
little dodgy on it. Just had to like just make sure.
Celebration, Florida, the weird kind of city that Disney did make that kind of has a lot of Epcot ideals thrown in.
I think so, but a
It's
little
basically like being on Main Street, USA.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like the concept of that did have like it, it wasn't like an end of the world type thing, but it did have a lot of drama involved in it. Look it up. I think you'd find it interesting.
Interesting.
Anyways,
All right, so then we have just to add, just to add to it, because as Batman and Robin, they emerge. They're dodging the sentries, the sentry lights, the little guards, and they're climbing up to observe the big announcement. The big announcement is arranged in this very like 1984 Orwellian setup with this giant
which I
black
can
and white.
totally fucking see Walt Disney doing even unintentionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if he had the technology to broadcast his face like that, he would.
Okay, so then we get the motivation, which again is very much it's like the Delta City from RoboCop meets Epcot. It's very much like a fusion of this idea where Oceania basically Walker like sums up the plan in kind of a very Disney, and it also has like the music behind it and everything. It's a very Disney like presentation, like the Epcot thing. Oceania's plan, Operation Deep Freeze, by the way, hence the episode title. Oceania's plan is to actualize its community of tomorrow, like because of all the crime and hatred and violence in the world and Gotham, I guess primarily. Again, kind of a response to the war on crime that Batman's embarking on. Quite nice. Um, they're going to end. It's going to lead to the end of civilization as we know it, which leads to Oceania as essentially a new Garden of Eden. And Teak, I'm going to say this, man. I'm going to say, man. I wonder how I had an epiphany when I was watching this.
Mhm.
this whole episode is a better version of the Batman and Robin plot because we do the freeze cannon later. This episode is absolutely imagine if I'm going to keep this brief. So
Oh God.
imagine if you stripped away the elements of Batman and Robin you didn't need. Okay, imagine if you kept Mr. Freeze.
So nothing,
Okay.
because Batman and Robin is perfect as is a so bad it's good movie. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so imagine
Okay,
this.
I'm sorry.
You take out Poison Ivy, you take out Bane, you take out Batgirl, you just stick with
Okay,
maybe
gotcha.
you have Mr. Freeze, you have the
And I
Alpha
agree,
Squad, but
Schwarzenegger is the most important part of that movie. So go ahead.
so that's what I'm saying. Is imagine if you literally just adapted this episode where, like Batman and Robin, you had a pre-established Mr. Freeze that perhaps we use the footage like we do in that movie, the one scene that works, one of the few scenes that works in that movie, with the wedding video. Or, we summarize the accident in like a flashback or an opening or something, and then Grant Walker in this whole episode is our story.
Mhm.
Which gives you your freeze can, gives you your spectacle, you wham blam, and again gives you a really big, almost Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 arc with Mr. Freeze.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. That's what kind of occurred to me. Like this whole episode is the better version of Batman and Robin that we didn't get. Okay, so so the plan is to freeze Gotham for 5 years. But don't worry, we'll be warm as toast in here. It's a great line. And then he's doing this really great maudlin thing here. And for those folks outside, well, it's sad, but you know, I'm just speeding up what they were doing to themselves anyway. And then Robin's like, as Robin tends to give a little commentary, he says, "He's all heart, isn't he?" Now, I've always loved this delivery from Batman. I can't explain why. There's no good reason for it. I love Batman's making a judgment call that's absolutely right. He says, Walker's a madman. Just very bluntly, he's very Walker's a
Well, I
madman.
mean, I feel like you can't disagree with him because he's basically just saying like, hey, the select group of people at this theme park, you are the new humanity.
Yeah. It's literally, you
It's,
use the Adam and Eve comparisons, like, hey, we're
I
your,
mean, it's pretty blunt.
again, it's like, what if you turn Wally into a theme park? What turn the Axiom into a theme park?
Right.
All right, so anyway, then the sentries find him, getting a little whammo blammo, a little action here. We batarang the light, we grapple gun the propeller blades, which is awesome, by the way. Anyway, so the two of them, they try to fight him off. They end up getting caught and then brought before the giant Grant Walker screen.
Oh God.
And it's every time I open a park, I get gate crashers.
Which is
So
very true, Dragon. Very, very true. At least the one time Walt Disney actually did open a park, he infamously got gate crashers.
Oh,
So
sure.
that line is rooted in truth.
I don't.
Like
I don't.
the gate crashers actually made Disneyland's opening day the shit show that it was.
I don't disbelieve that at all. That Dini might be pulling that there
Uh-huh.
too. All right, so Batman, he's not falling for the world without crime and violence and pain that Walker's trying to say here. And of course, Batman and Robin are calling him out like, yeah, no free will. That's a price to pay. I love just the glib responses from Grant Walker. That's a great. See, Grant Walker's such an. No one ever talks about him because of the gem of the episode thing, and that's why I want to highlight how great Grant Walker was as a one-off. He's excellent. He's like, it's just the price. He's just so delusional, but he sounds so warm and Disney-like. It's the price for order, and then Batman's just coming in with your order for your select few. I failed to see the problem with that. So they just takes him to the lab, and then we have the awesome silhouette of Mister Freeze with the red eyes, and Batman's just trying to. I love this. Batman's trying to reason Mister Freeze. Mister Freeze, he's made up his mind. We, the audience, knows nothing on earth's gonna make him change his mind at this point. Just like, look, I don't know what he promised you. Again, oh boy, he doesn't know. But you can't. But you can't help him go through with this plan. He says so remorsefully. I have no choice, and he freezes a money shot. Shh, act break. All right, so the M9s deliver the Icebound Batman and Robin as Mr. Freeze recreates his origin on Grant Walker, turns him in. Grant Walker gets his own freeze suit, which is awesome. Anyway, so he's turned to another Mr. Freeze. We have the cryogenic, the old Disney lore, the old Disney the dumb Disney rumor turned true.
Yes. And Dragon, I always thought that the really dumb thing about the Disney rumor. I mean, the cryogenic freezing, I can believe that Walt Disney, like, at least looked into the idea. But where the hell did the head thing come from, Dragon? That's what I want to know.
Well, I'm going to assume what happened was, in Futurama, obviously it's very comical, very farcical, the whole separated head thing, and I'm pretty sure they're pulling from the Disney thing with the head thing with Futurama. I'm pretty sure. I can't verify, but I do wonder if there was, like, in the talk of cryogenics, if they talked about the most important thing to preserve would be the brain and the identity and the humanity and stuff. So maybe it was like a page of research amongst copious amounts of research, you know? It's going to caught on like wildfire. That's my guess. But most likely, if not that, then it's people saying, how can we make this weirder or make it cooler? Like cryogenics is like he's going to wake up one day. How can we make it cooler and all rumor like? It's like it's going to be a frozen head. That's the thing, of course, just to set the record straight, just to get it in there, because I'm always he was cremated, folks. Okay, it's just he was cremated. He was not frozen.
Let's see. Were you in the room when he got cremated, Dragon?
Oh, would you stop that? Anyway, the point being, we get to see the cooler what-if version of it here, though.
Absolutely, man, and it's great. So basically, at this point, like, he's preparing himself for the cryogenics, right?
No, I mean, I'm just getting to the point where, Freeze turned the dial and he turned him into he's now...
Okay, so he's basically like, I'm not even waiting until I'm dead. Like, this is me, like, which... honestly, like I said, like in terms of the alternate history, if cryogenics was something that Walt Disney was into, I could see himself being like, yeah, let's go for it now. Keep moving forward, bitches. It
sounds absolutely like something Disney would look into, given all the innovations. But yeah, so Freeze has duplicated the accident that caused him, knowing the chemicals are on the table and everything. He's doing like a very much a cleaner process of it here. And in Grant Walker, we have that bit where his face turns all cold and it's ice breath comes out. And it's like, oh my god, he's frozen. He's in the suit with cool enhanced Mr. Freeze strength. And of course, like he's having a grand old time, like breaking the table. Oh, gotta get used to the strength there. He's like. So, yeah, he's like going to enjoy his handiwork up front, getting ready for the big deep freeze plan, and says, would you like to come join us, Mr. Freeze? He says, no, I want to be left alone with my wife. And of course, after the idea too being after the big freeze the world plan, he won't need to wear the suit once it's frozen for like the 5
Right, right.
Yeah. All right, so then we have a very poignant conversation with Batman. This is it's like some of the best parts of Heart of Ice, the big conversation between Batman and Mr. Freeze. And of course, yet again, Robin's just kind of along for the ride in these, where it's like, we just really need Batman and Mr. Freeze to have this conversation. We need Robin.
In all honesty, Dragon, Robin really shouldn't have been in the episode.
Yeah, but
because we literally freeze Robin, like, here, take the dead weight and go.
Yeah, that's literally all we do with them. Yeah, that Bat-Mike kisses him. That's about it. Anyway, but yeah, seriously, I always love these conversations. These are the power of the Dini writing here. Oh my goodness, I bow before it. So Batman pleads, like, look, billions are going to perish. You can't let that happen. Says, all that matters to me is all that matters to me is I once again have my wife and the means to restore her. Mm-hmm. And then Batman, oh my god, I love this. Batman says, she'll wake up in a dead, frozen world. It's like the conversation in Toy Story 2 about Woody. You're going to be behind glass if you go to the museum in Japan. It's like the whole other side of it you didn't think of. It's great.
Sure.
She'll wake up in a dead, frozen world that you helped destroy. And she'll hate you.
Think you're alone now? Wait till she finds out what you did.
I love Mr. Freeze, like, saying silence, and then Batman just keeps kneeling at it because he knows he's getting to him. And then Mr. Freeze like, I said silence! And he's, oh my god, seeing him so angry, and Freeze is like, blast him for a bit there. And then the contemplate, because he knows Batman, he's smart enough to know Batman's right, and he contemplates it.
Yeah.
As he stares at the glass, and you have the sad music coming in there. Forgive me, because he knows Mr. Freeze has his own perchance to dream right here with the revelation, Nora's paramount, but so is everything she stood for and their love stood for, so he can't violate that. So, otherwise, why bring her back? So, he breaks him open. Come, there's much to do. It's like, okay, we have an unusual team-up between Batman, Robin, Mr. Freeze, gonna save the day. Let's see. So the cannon's operational. The audio animatronics are the technicians, which is just charming. It's like, of course he's gonna have to be the why not? So then Mr. Freeze arrives. He's freezing the audio animatronics and the control panels. He's attacked by the M9, cracking the helmet, which is, oh no, don't crack poor Mr. Freeze's helmet. He's on our side for a change. No. Batman's decapitating some robots with batarangs because he's awesome. Mr. Freeze tosses Walker into a giant thing of coolant. Walker's like, "Wait, I thought we were cool. What are you doing here, man?" So let's see. So Mr. Freeze Iceman's his way down with a freeze gun, like the way
Yeah,
Iceman.
that's great. That's a great visual.
So Freeze is about to set the dial, then Walker emerges with a lead pipe, like cracks him in the head. Bam! And it says, "My dream! I cheated death to make it real, and you won't stop me! You may live forever, Grant Walker, but your mad dream dies now." So
Oh
Freeze,
god, the living forever thing, Dragon. Ooh, that's gonna come back. Put a pin in
this is,
that.
tell me this isn't such a great idea for a fate of this guy. So
Oh, it's wonderful. It's great.
So Mr. Freeze, he freezes him in ice to a vat, like behind the big coolant vat. So and then he overloads the power core. Basically, the place is going to icy self-destruct. It's going to look like Krypton in there with like a bunch of ice shards coming out. So Mr. Freeze, he coldly I love how coldly he evacuates the park. It's not like no urgency. He's just saying really blatantly. He says, "You residents of Oceania, your city is doomed. If you value your lives, you'll evacuate now." So they all go to like the cruise liner things. The place comes down like Krypton. The icicles emerge and everything. The residents are fleeing on these boats. It's time for Batman and Robin because again the Batboat unfortunately blew up, so you're gonna have to hitch a ride with these guys. Mr. Freeze, he won't go. He refuses to go. He's gonna stay with Nora. And Batman,
This
classy
is
Bat.
very like Pixarian moment right here, Dragon. I thought.
It is. So yeah, it's very much like you think we're gonna go the one way, but no, it's the matchstick moment.
Exactly.
And in a
Yeah.
sense, it's a matchstick moment. In this case, it's kind of a cold matchstick moment, but sure. So Batman tries to dissuade him. He's batarang him. He'll take him if it means saving his life. He's going to take him by force. Mr. Freeze, with his enhanced strength, he breaks the line and freezes Robin. Uh, Not entirely, so up to the neck. And he says like, "You have more pressing concerns. Take the boy and go." And I love like Mr. Freeze. He doesn't want them to stay for him. He just wants you go. I'm going to stay with my wife. I love it. It's kind of a selfless
He
act.
doesn't like fight them by any means. He very much provides a mutual way to get Batman out of the picture here.
Exactly. It's a way Batman can't refuse because he knows like there's a timetable on this thing, or else Robin's going to either be paralyzed, or going to be like a really world class frostbite or something. So Mr. Freeze, and this is a poetic fate for Mr. Freeze too. So Mr. Freeze, he stays with Nora. "We're together again, my love." Like if he's gonna go, he's gonna die with Nora. So Batman and Robin escape on the ocean line on the boat as Oceania blows up, which then leads to the fate of Grant Walker. Tiki, what is the fate?
Oh God, Dragon! This is to me one of the darkest moments in the whole series. I think Grant Walker, he's frozen in his little iceberg that Mister Freeze created for him, but he's still alive. He's still very much conscious. And as a little cartoon fish floats by him, he just gives a muffled scream.
I love eights. The muffling is so great.
Dragon, I gotta say that the idea is kind of horrific. Just being frozen but still conscious and just floating down to the darkest depths of the ocean. I mean, ooh.
It's a great
Ooh.
comeuppance for his hubris, man. It's perfect. It's scary as all get out, but and here's the thing, Tiki. Now, he never reappears in the animated series, but in the tie-in comics, he comes back once, and the idea he's ticked off for Mr. Freeze to leave him at iceberg, so it's pretty cool. You left me frozen in an iceberg for years. So Robin's warmed up after some time in the immersion tank from Heart of Ice, and he's drinking. Alfred made him some cocoa. I think I like to think it's cocoa. Could be tea. Then we talk about Mr. Freeze's fate. So you think he's gone for good? And Batman kind of airs that. Well, if Mr. Freeze's condition has truly made him immortal, I don't think it's the last we've seen of him. Then we have our setup for Sub-Zero here. We have this beautiful shot of Mr. Freeze kneeling before his wife in the tube. And again, the old like a warm hand to hold and a wind in my face. Like he can't hold her hand yet, but there's hope. He could one day hold her hand. He's like putting the hand on the glass, and it's a poetic full circle ending. It's perfect.
Yeah, it makes me really excited for Heart of Ice, or I'm sorry for Sub-Zero.
Oh yeah, you trust me, it's good too. You're gonna like it.
I remember all the advertising for it, Dragon, but I never actually have seen it.
Well, fun fact, Sub-Zero, it was the tie-in for Batman and Robin.
Got it, got it. All right, so final thoughts, Dragon. Going through it, I mean, I think I'm pretty much confirmed this is my favorite of season 4, and I like it just a little
3.
bit better than what 3? I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, and I like it just a little bit better than Heart of Ice. I think this is just a fantastic. I mean, this Walker guy is just such a great villain. Obviously, just a really ingenious sort of like alternate history version of Walt Disney, endlessly fascinating to me. Mr. Freeze just gets such a poetic ending and a great setup to his movie. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Overall, Dragon, like I said, I'm feeling kind of bittersweet because I'm really loving this last stretch of episodes for the animated series in its original incarnation, and I'm sure there's stuff that I'm gonna enjoy in season 4, but I don't know. I just I kind of feel like I'm staring down the abyss when it comes to season 4. I got to admit, compared to the quality we've been getting.
Oh, we'll see how you take to it, kiddo. We'll see how you take to it. So, final thoughts for me. Again, I echo one of season three's best. I mean, it's probably like something like this and the Demon's Quest in terms of like how great it can get in season 3. Also, Silicon Soul, love that too. The point being, got a lot of good contenders. This is absolutely one of the best. Season 3. It's an excellent follow up to the Mr. Freeze story, which is that's a high mark too. Because I mean, Heart of Ice, it's really hard to get. It's really hard to compete with. Very underrated, very overshadowed by Sub Zero and the like. The curse of the the curse of the DCAU is that they never quite know when they're getting their endings, when the end was near, because they're always they lucked out on like they kept when it comes to the Justice League, they kept ending it like the best ending they could, and they knew they had endings, but they didn't know it was an option to get renewed, so they had to keep blowing up the world a couple times, and it was awesome, but it was like we keep imagine they run out of ideas after these epic finales, but so similar thing with the animated series here, and I got to tell you, looking at the original animated series before we do the revamp, this I wish we reversed the next episode with this one because this would have been the perfect season finale, which would have then led into Sub Zero. Would have been perfect if this was the ending to season 3. Unfortunately, it's not. But that's what I'm saying. The episode it's so much to love about this thing, and in retrospect, it's like the true finale before it's the penultimate. A lot of love for Mr. Freeze on the outlook changing. He's given hope with the Nora of it all, and again, those scenes are magic when he's reunited with Nora, and the hope enters his eyes, recaptures the humanity and the appeal of Heart of Ice too, which is just it's fantastic, wonderful episode.
All right, take us out.
Returns all around, Batgirl aplenty, midterms. Can Batgirl solve this cat-laden caper without the Caped Crusader? Will an unlikely alliance with Catwoman help? Tune in next time. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to the animated Batcave with Batgirl Returns.
I said...
Go ahead.
I said silence!
Epcot.
Epcot.